The time is 12:30 a.m. and we are back in session. So.
Okay. All right, item 12C on the board's agenda is an appeal filed pursuant to Board Policy GF Public Complaints. The appeal is brought by community member Dr. Alex Harris. Dr. Harris filed three requests for reconsideration pursuant to Board Policy EFA Instructional Resources, Instructional Materials. The reconsideration requests relate to three different science textbooks: Campbell's Biology in Focus, AP edition, published by Pearson; the Texas version of Miller and Levine's Experience Biology, published by Savas; and Astronomy 1A, published by eDynamic Learning. The district dismissed Dr. Harris' request for reconsideration because the district does not have the authority to grant relief requested by Dr. Harris, which is for the district to, quote, teach as required by the TEKS but expose the errors using intelligent design theory, unquote. All members of the board are present and have received the documents related to this hearing as part of the February 18th, 2025 board book. The issue before the Board of Trustees is to determine whether the district's dismissal of Dr. Harris's reconsideration request because the district could not grant Dr. Harris his relief was appropriate or not. The board must base its decision on the evidence contained in the documents provided and by the statements made by the parties. If the board determines the reconsideration request should not have been dismissed by the district will initiate the reconsideration process set forth in Policy EFA Local. Members of the board, please indicate by raising your hand if you have reviewed the documents for this hearing. So if you all would please raise your hand, and for the record, all members have raised their hands, indicating that they have reviewed the documents. I will now ask each of you individually whether you are able to serve as an impartial member of the board in consideration of this matter. Any trustee not able to serve in such a manner may say so and ask to be excused. So I'll just go down the line. Mrs. Horton? Yes. Mrs. Simler? Mrs. Dungan?
Yes.
Mrs. Odenwiller?
Yes.
Mrs. Nelson?
Yes.
Mrs. Dawson?
Yes.
And Mrs. May?
Yes.
Okay, all members of the board have indicated their ability to serve. The hearing will proceed with Dr. Harris as the appellant going first, followed by Mr. Albert Kasangi, the district's coordinator of science. Dr. Harris and Mr. Kasangi will each have 20 minutes to make their comments to the board, although we have discussed the time, and I think we're all going to work to work on that. Please note that this is not an evidentiary hearing. There is no cross-examination of witnesses, and neither party can reserve time. We're going to use this iPad here as the timekeeper so that you can see the time that you have remaining along the way. And I just would remind you that even though we're in a small room, it's no longer crowded in here, all comments need to be made from the podium because we are recording, and so just so that everyone can hear you that's out there. Do we have any questions by either party? We good? Board members, we okay to go? Okay,
Yes,
Dr.
really
Harris?
quickly. Are we doing all three in the 20 minutes?
Yes.
Correct? We're not doing
No,
three.
this is one shot. That's why Dr. Harris requested a little extra time because there was
Okay.
three, so we're going to do 20 minutes, and then Mr. Kasangi will have his 20 minutes. So if we're ready, then Dr. Harris, you are up, my friend, and you'll have 20 minutes.
Thank you, Dr. Nall and board. This is something that's very near and dear to my heart because this gets into religion. Not many people realize that because this gets into the religion of atheism. Atheism, what's the foundation of atheism? There is no God. And to most people, the universe is evidence of a creator. And so we have a conflict. And this is how my concern is that we've introduced this into our classrooms as under the guise of science. And that's wrong. It's a violation of the First Amendment. Now, it's very important to remember this, and I hope I'm seeing it. The Big Bang Theory is the heart of the religion of atheism, because without its singularity, there is no universe. And if there's no universe, there is no origin of life. You can't have origin of life. And that's why they're all so coupled together. And if you don't have origin of life, you don't have evolution. So you cannot say, oh, I'm going to deal with evolution. A lot of people have made that mistake. Or I'm going to deal with origin of life. And I've seen that go round and round and round. You've got to start with the origin of the universe. Because without the origin of the universe, without a universe, you've got nothing. So that's where we're going to start. And that's why this is all coupled together. Because you can't separate them. You can't segregate them. They're all together. Now, on the... What did I do? I turned it off? Oh, there you go. This is what's in our textbooks. I have been contending and contending and contending, because the last time I was up here, I did the same thing. And everyone, you shoot me and said, hey, no, we can't do anything. We just wash our hands, go over to the SBOE. I said, okay, fine. I've been at the SBOE since that last time. And I've been hounding them and say, show me how science can prove the origin of the universe. You show me. You think you're going to teach our children? Well, you show me as an adult. And I've been hounding at them. And you'll see the evidences as we move along. And this is right out of the textbook. I hope you can all read it very carefully. This is the exact quote from eDynamic's digital resource for astronomy. And he goes through the thing and says, many critics have said the Big Bang Theory is a violation of the laws of thermodynamics. It's more than just the first, it's the second too. Now, that's science. We teach the laws of thermodynamics, right? I hope so. And we should understand this. And obviously, they couldn't. And look what they say. Some people believe, those who support Big Bang Theory argue that the laws of science don't apply to the creation of the universe. Now, if it doesn't, what is it doing in a science class? In a science class, the laws of thermodynamics apply. You take out the laws of thermodynamics, it doesn't belong in a science class. Am I right or am I wrong? Think about that. And it says, what do you think? That's asking the students what they think. You're supposed to be teaching them science. And you tell them, hey, that is very, very deceitful. And saying that the laws of science don't apply, then you shouldn't be teaching the Big Bang Theory. So, moving on to the Big Bang Theory, what's my objective? What's the relief that I'm looking for? Because that's the big question. We cannot teach a lie. I hope we're all clear on that. If something is a lie, someone tells us to teach our children, that's wrong. I don't care who it is. I don't care who it is. Misguiding. You're there to teach them the truth. That's what I hope you all sign up for. If this is not truth, you cannot teach it, or you make it clear. I do understand you cannot change the text. That's the big problem. That was the excuse. Oh, we can't change the text. Okay. And you're going to get, if you don't teach the text, you're going to get tested in the start testing, and you're caught short. So I never said that. If you look at my reconsideration, it's very clear. Teach the text. But teach it correctly. Tell the students that Big Bang Theory science cannot explain the origin of the universe. I hope all of us are clear on that. It cannot. It just cannot. And as we understand, you can walk through, I don't want to go through this, all of this about the laws of thermodynamics. The first law says energy cannot be created or destroyed. It's a simple scientific problem. You don't need a big college degree. A high school student can explain that. That's what we should teach our students. When you teach, here's the problem. Energy is not going in and out. Something is changing. Well, you can only change. Energy cannot be created. And you can imagine the universe is a closed system. It's a closed system. And you can imagine the energy to create for this universe, you translate all that matter into energy. I can't even put the zeros together. And to just say, just mysteriously applied, it's just, oh, the laws don't apply. That is sheer, I'm sorry, nonsense. That's not science. So, since you have to teach that, I agree. I'm not disputing that. I'm not taking that away. Whatever's in your textbooks, with all the different evidences that they show, saying, oh, yeah, Hubble and redshift and cosmic background, CMB, cosmic microwave background. The person who discovered it is a Nobel Prize winner. His name is Arno Penzias. He discovered it. And here's a statement. I want to read that statement to you. Astronomy leads us to a unique event, a universe which was created out of nothing. This is his words, not mine. One with a very delicate balance. An explosion doesn't create order. It creates disorder. You try it. Set up a firecracker and say, oh, I see order from it. If you do, hey. Needed to provide exact conditions required to permit life. That's what we have. One which has an underlying, one might say, supernatural plan. This is a Nobel Prize winner. That's a statement. And yet we teach this thing and say, hey, all this thing. And I suggest, I didn't use the word intelligent design. That's a viable option because typically that's a theory. You could choose what you want to say. That without an external agent, without an external intelligent designer, this is just not possible. That's a fact. And that's why they instituted the word intelligent design. There has been discussion around SBOE on this. I think you're very familiar with that. But hey, it's not in the TEKS. We can't put it in the TEKS. But I think the TEKS do call for alternate theories. And how you phrase it, how you word it, it's up to you. We must say, as an alternative theory, it is plausible that there was an external designer, an intelligent designer. But of course, we can't identify who that is. Because the minute you do that, you cross over from science into faith, into religion. And that's out of place. And you'll violate the First Amendment. So all I'm saying is you have to tell the students science cannot explain the origin of the universe. And that's an honest statement. We cannot teach it like it is right now under the origin of the universe. Oh, yeah, science. And you're talking about young children. And they, of course, grow up and they get out of it and say, no, that was nonsense. Or they get into an atheistic mold and say, oh, yeah, and it's more a denial. But we cannot, and this must stop. Now, of course, as I said before, without a universe, you have nothing. We can't explain that. So on that, what science does, it talks about origin of life. It talks about the abiotic process, which is basically the 4 stages of taking substance and how it comes together in 4 stages to create the first self-replicating cell, which we call it bacteria. It walks through. Now, every step, whatever experiments they have done, there's somebody intervening in there. It doesn't mysteriously come together and form bacteria. Of course, you have to first explain where you got all those substances from, which no one talks about. And that's why I, again, put this together, because you cannot mix the, you have to deal with it systematically. And therefore, all I'm saying is these facts need to be made clear when you teach about origin of life. Because you need a universe which we don't have any clue about. And then we make assumptions. We take substances out of it. We create ideal conditions, try to bring it together. There's information in your cell that shows you why you have blonde hair. I have no hair. Those are all part of our genetic makeup. You can't chemicals just come together. It's ridiculous. But yet we've been wallowing in this for the last 50 years. And I'm surprised nobody questioned it. They always jump into, a lot of people have questioned, origin of life. There's an expert right down in Rice University. He's an expert on that. And there are others. But no one questioned the Big Bang Theory, because without that, origin of life is just a castle in the air. Then moving on to the next one. The evolution. Evolution moves in stages. If ever you remember evolution, it starts from bacteria and it evolves through its first stages. I want you to, if you can see that, on top of this chart, there's a little red box on the top. I don't know if you can read it, but that says humans. I'll help you. That says humans. So basically, as you go through this evolution stages, you end up with humans. Now you say, that's just so odd. They show all these things about, the bacteria becoming a bird and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But when it comes to human, just one little box. The reason is that's called primate evolution. And if you look at last year's textbook, and I put that in the handout, it is right there. And why is that not there? Because Darwin was trying to show the superiority of the Caucasian race. You read, it's all in there, all his quotes. How it started from monkeys, and of course it evolved through the stages, and finally it ended up with the Caucasian race. Now, why did he want to so passionate about that? Is because, sorry to say, my very own caste, Indian caste system spread into the world society, and it polluted the whole world. And the whole world was become so racially conscious. Now we talk about slavery. Somebody put a fact on my across for me, just recently. Do you know Irish slaves were much earlier? Retta Akamatsu, her book is excellent, filled with evidence. The horrific nature. People make slaves of people. And this is back in, the first record is in 1612. Yet we have an African American in 1642 who came in with the Jesuit priest as an indentured servant. And he progressed. And in 1642, he became an assemblyman. He served on the Maryland legislature in 1642. How could you do that? You try to imagine that, and try to put it all together. But then, this is before the Indian caste system book was translated in 1794. And of course, you have the horrific statement, which is in this material, of the Supreme Court in 1856. And here's what the Justice Taney said. They had for more than a century had been regarded as being inferior order and altogether unfit to associate with the white race, either social or political relations, so far inferior that they had no rights for which the white man was bound to respect, that the Negro justly and lawfully might be reduced to slavery for his benefit. This is the Supreme Court. So you see the pattern. It all fits together. And I've been hounding the SBOE And they took out primate evolution. They took this out. But it looks funny, right? You have evolution, suddenly you don't know where humans came from. But that's the theory. But, you know, there are examples in the book, the textbooks. They talk about how finches and other species, how they have salamanders and species and things, but they all remain the same. They have never moved. The finch didn't become a salamander didn't become a finch. This is adaptation. That's what you see. Adaptation, yes, that is the truth. People adapt. And so I want these facts to be brought out and make it clear that without a universe, you don't have origin of life. And without an origin of life, without life, you don't have evolution. And I encourage you to tell them, wait, this is deleted, but that might be outside your scope. But I wanted to share it with you for your own education. So in closing, sorry I took up all the 20 minutes. We must stop this indoctrination of our children. We must stop it. Make it clear science cannot. I know we cannot do a lot of things. You are constrained. You have to teach the teeth. But you are also mandated to teach the truth. I'm asking, make it clear. Science cannot explain the origin of the universe. That's all I'm asking. And also tell them, hey, you assume all that, and you start building this life and evolution. It's like if you had no land, you had no foundation, and someone showed you a plan of what the great things he's going to do or she's going to do. You laugh at that person. That's a castle in the air. Where are you going to put this building? What are you going to do? Well, I have no land. I don't worry about that. And that's what you're saying. We don't know how the universe originated. And I hope what I'm asking is clear. I'm not asking you to stop teaching the teeth. You have to, for the time being. We'll work on that with SBOE. We'll hound them. They keep putting it off. I'm just waiting for them to, when the teaks go through that revision cycle. There are a lot of things I have in mind. And especially in the area of religion, and I've been asking for other things. I'll share it with you later. But I hope my ask is clear. Make it very clear. Science cannot explain the origin of the universe. And we don't have a universe, you don't have origin of life. And if you don't have origin of life, you don't have evolution. How you do it, but that's the truth. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Harris. Appreciate you. All right, Mr. Kasang, you'll have 20 minutes if you would come up, introduce yourself. I'm not sure if everybody's had a chance to meet you or not, and then you'll have your 20 minutes, sir.
President Odenweller, members of the board, and Dr. Knoll, good morning. Now, this is my first time, of course, not in the board meeting, but to stand before you. But I didn't know that I was going to kick off my career before you in this particular manner. But I'm grateful for the opportunity. I hope I can be of some help to you this morning. So I'll go ahead and start my presentation. And the first thing I'm going to do is just give you a brief background to the three books that are in question this morning. Astronomy by eDynamic, Learning, and Texas Miller-Levin Experience Biology, published by Service. Now, these two books are part of our last year adoption following the 2024 proclamation. It's a resource for supporting the teaching of the new science texts. And then the Biology in Focus is an AP book that has been around for so many years. I'm sure if you took an AP class or a freshman biology class in college, you probably used Biology. Now, these books, contrary to what you might think, are not really the issue. I could substitute the eDynamic resource with an astronomy book, and it will still cover the Big Bang Theory in a similar way. I could substitute Miller-Levin biology with McGraw-Hill or any other publisher, but they still be able to cover the evolution ticks in a similar manner. And as a matter of fact, the AP Biology, Campbell Biology in Focus is just one of the books on the list of books that we have to choose from for teaching AP Biology course. So I don't want us to get hung on the book as the issue, but really appreciate the fact that I could substitute any of those books with any other instructional resource to teach AP Biology, and all those books will cover the same learning objectives for that particular course. So in a way of introduction, I want to just underscore something that we've told Dr. Harris again and again, that we're required to teach the TICs as adopted by the State Board of Education. And as you're aware, every year we're supposed to certify that we are teaching the TICs, and that we are using the right instructional resources to support that particular curriculum. As you're aware, science TICs were recently reviewed and revised, and the appropriate venue to object any content in that particular document was when the SBOE was hearing the views from the stakeholders. And Dr. Harris has presented his views to State Board of Education, TEA. I've seen those emails, correspondence, and I think they've given him audience. But despite that, I know he's aware that the State Board of Education was not able to change any of the text of in the language of the TICs. And so we're currently teaching new K-12 science TICs as adopted by the State Board of Education. So I think I'll start by simplifying this presentation. And one of the things I'm going to resist is to change or transform this meeting into a science lecture room, right? Because I don't think that will be very helpful. But I'll be very happy to answer any science questions you may have. But I just want to state what is actually true, that those three instructional resources that are before you are not the curriculum. We build the curriculum. I think you've heard that several times. We take the TICs, and we take the instructional resource, and then we have our instructional best practices. And using all those three things, we're able to build a curriculum. And our curriculum is visible, is available. You can be able to see our curriculum maps. What I would have loved, actually, very kindly, and ask Dr. Harris would have been for Dr. Harris to come and sit with us and try to understand how we're teaching this content. Instead of making assumptions by looking at a few chapters in these instructional resources. And to a great extent, what he has done tonight is, in some cases, massage the content that we teach in science with some misinformation. And I don't think that's very fair to us as curriculum people and as science educators. So we teach the TICs and the AP course objectives. And so we teach the Big Bang Theory in astronomy. We teach the evidence of evolution in both level biology and AP biology. We teach mechanisms of evolution. And we mention Charles Darwin when we teach natural selection. Because actually the TICs require us to highlight the contributions of scientists. And as you would imagine, Charles Darwin is central to the idea or the theory of evolution by means of natural selection. Now, what we don't teach, what we do not do in Conroe ISD, we do not indoctrinate children in the process of teaching science. It's very important for us to appreciate that. And we don't mix faith and science in our science discourse. In other words, I leave my personal views, my faith, my personal beliefs at the door, and I teach science. We don't teach critical race theory. And I'm mentioning these things because I'm sure the audience who are listening to us online, they're wondering, why are you saying these things? Because Dr. Harris alleges that we teach these things. And honestly, in my conversation with our curriculum team, I was telling them that I cannot recognize the school district that Dr. Harris is talking about. Because I'm a parent in this school district. I wouldn't want my child to go to a school district where you're using science to teach social Darwinism, for example. Because that's what he has just even told us tonight, that we are using evolution to propagate the idea that one race is more superior than the other. That's a very dangerous idea. He's introducing something that we don't do. And I think if he sat down with us to understand how we teach this content in class, it would be very helpful, because someone picking these ideas through the media will run a story that in Conroe ISD, the parents are in arms because science teachers are using evolution to teach social Darwinism. We don't do that. And we don't teach faith and beliefs of religion of atheism. And very importantly, we do not promote an infallible view of science. We don't tell our kids that science can never be wrong, because we know that theories or ideas can actually be improved or amended as more information is learned. So throughout the night, we'll be making reference to a scientific theory. The good news is the TICS document, actually in the preamble of that particular document, it gives us what a scientific theory is. So when Dr. Harris comes to us and says, this is also a theory, it has to meet that criteria that you can see on your screen. If it doesn't meet that criteria, the State Board of Education says it's not a theory. And also from my training as a science educator, I know that will not be a theory, right? We're looking for a phenomena. Theories are based on natural and physical phenomena and are capable of being tested by multiple independent researchers. The next point is very, very important. Again, this comes from the TICS document from the State Board of Education. As a matter of fact, when we are training teachers, this is what we start with. What is actually science? We have to understand what the nature of science is. And let me just try to use this graphic, it might help us, okay? I think what Dr. Harris has spent tonight trying to explain is science as we know it in the bucket of science as knowledge. What he fails to recognize is that what we call science is actually a product of the scientific method, scientific inquiry. Before you get into that particular bucket, you have to do inquiry, and that's something any scientist can be able to do, collect evidence over and over again. And if you're getting the same results, it becomes a theory, it becomes a law, it becomes a principle that contributes to that bucket of knowledge. And throwing just anything in that bucket of knowledge and calling it science is representing how we educate our kids. So as I said, we teach the TICS, and the astronomy TICS requires us to describe and evaluate historical development of evidence supporting the Big Bang theory. It doesn't say that we know everything about the origin of the universe. It recognizes there are other theories out there. The steady state, for example, oscillating theory, multiverse theory. There are many theories out there. But the literature goes ahead to say this is the most prevailing theory. And that's why it is actually given that prominence. And there are evidences. You can look at the evidences, and evidence is evidence in science, right? If you see the universe is expanding, you may want to ask yourself, how fast is it expanding? And there are mathematical models that can be able to turn the clock back and say, you know what, if it's expanding, it must be, it's moving from someplace, and you can use those mathematical models to play the time back and arrive at some conclusions. That's what we do in science. We, foster curiosity. You make an observation, you formulate a hypothesis, and then you go ahead and do that inquiry. But I think I want to offer a path forward. One is one that Dr. Harris actually recognizes, that if he has any issues with the ticks or what we teach the kids, the place to take it is a State Board of Education. I really commend him for doing that. I've seen those conversations with the TEA. He copies us on those conversations. So that's one place that he can actually go. But the other place that Dr. Harris actually needs to go is actually test his ideas with his peers. And I want to help the board by offering this path forward. What he needs to do is present his ideas at a conference of his peers, write a journal articles, and then his ideas are interrogated by his peers. And if they stand the test of time, I'll be the first one as a science educator in this particular district to actually cite that in a curriculum document and say, Dr. Harris in this particular conference made this particular argument, and these were the rebuttals from his peers, and his ideas were scrutinized to the test of time. We have a right to acknowledge that. You don't do that in a social gathering. You don't even do that to change a scientific theory, even in a board meeting, respectfully. You don't do that in the classroom where I teach. I don't do that. I don't change a scientific theory. You subject your ideas. I would like to know what those professors at Caltech, at MIT, at Rice, at Sam Houston, at University of Houston, at A&M, what do they say about his ideas? That's what matters to me as a science educator. And I'll just read this very quickly. The physics community has embraced the Big Bang theory as an explanation for the origin of the universe. And the laws of thermodynamics are laws of physics. It's inconceivable for me to imagine that 100 years since the Big Bang theory was actually formulated, that the physicists, astrophysicists have never found a contradiction. That it's Dr. Harris tonight who has actually found that contradiction. And actually he said that he wonders why nobody has come up who is an expert, people who do this stuff for a living, because they have explanations for this. And recognize that as a science educators. That's what we want to respect. Again, if you look at biology, there's a lot of ticks here, as you can imagine. And that just speaks to the importance of this to the State Board of Education and to the educators who actually put this document together. You can see just how many ticks that we have on evolution. The first two there have to do with the evidence for evolution. And then the next 5 ticks there have to do with the, 4 ticks there have to do with the mechanisms. That means, how does evolution actually work? And really, as a science educator, I know the reason why the State Board of Education decided actually write 3 ticks about natural selection, which I've looked at Dr. Harris' documents. He cited natural selection again and again, and the work of Charles Darwin. It's for the same reasons we're here tonight, because the State Board of Education requires or hopes that we can actually be able to teach the students the correct understanding of evolution. That's why it repeats again and again. Like, for example, Dr. Harris wonders why, a salamander has never turned into a lizard or into a bird or that kind of thing. Now, evolution is not a path to perfection, all right? That's what we teach our kids. You don't just get to choose that you want to evolve. As a matter of fact, an individual organism does not evolve, all right? Evolution actually occurs at the level of the population. And it's for that reason why the State Board of Education has very clearly broken down those particular ticks to make sure that we are teaching the kids correct science. So evolution is actually a scientific idea, theory that explain the unity and diversity of life. And as I've said, it has multiple evidences. And actually, a correct definition of evolution is the change in a gene pool of a population over time. And this is something that a high school or junior high science teacher can actually be able to demonstrate in a classroom just using fruit flies. Okay, you can keep fruit flies in your classroom, and you can be able to monitor how the traits are changing, and using a simple, I say simple, it's not simple, but a mathematical model, you can be able to demonstrate that the gene pool of a population is changing, all right? And that's what we call evolution, all right? Yes, Dr. Harris talks about adaptation, it has a place. But the way we explain it, and I'll be very quick on this one, is here's how I'll teach it in class, all right? If I look at a population of any organism, I can be able to see variations among the individuals in a population. And we know that in an environment, there are limited resources. It turns out that organisms that have favorable variations are likely to survive because those variations are advantageous. And if you survive, you might live long enough to reproduce. That's just a given. And that is what we call differential reproductive success. I have just modeled a lesson on natural selection. That doesn't sound to me like social Darwinism. It doesn't sound to me like we're saying one race is more superior than the other. So what would it mean to take the content of evolution out of the curriculum? Because I've seen in one of his requests, we should stop teaching evolution. This is the AP curriculum exam kind of blueprint, and you can see 13 to 20% of that exam is on natural selection or evolution. The highest in all those categories. On an exam that is already too hard for kids, you can imagine if you take away 20%, or if you don't teach them the correct facts, understanding of evolution, that will be problematic. And even closer home for the majority of our kids, all the freshmen have to take EOC, biology EOC. You can see again, it makes up almost 20% of the exam. So before I conclude, I really wanted to invite Dr. Harris to come and help me in the work that I do to educate kids. This weekend, I had over 600 students go out to compete in science and engineering fair, robotics, Fast Tech Challenge, Fast Lego League, and so on. Now, those programs are very successful because of the support I get from the board and the superintendent. But more importantly, it is actually mentors who have the skill set of Dr. Harris who come and work alongside those kids to teach them engineering skills, to make those robots, build those robots, or work on that science and engineering project. And I think in Dr. Harris doing that, he'll get to understand us better, and he'll understand that we're actually building future leaders, and we're making sure that we are teaching science with integrity and with the best instructional practices. So we do not cut, modify, or exclude TICs or AP learning objects from our curriculum, because that will undermine the work of State Board of Education and College Board. Only the State Board of Education or College Board can grant Dr. Harris the relief he's seeking. I therefore request the school board to dismiss his request for reconsideration of the following instructional resources: Chemo Biology in Focus by Pearson, Texas Miller Levine Experience Biology by Savas, and Astronomy by eDynamic. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, at this time, do any board members have questions for either Dr. Harris or Mr. Kasangi? And I'll just remind you both men, if you are asked any questions, if you'll make sure to come to the podium to answer, that would be appreciated. Ms. Nelson?
Mr. Kasangi? Okay, I have a question for you.
Come
Would
on
you
up.
mind coming up to the podium? Thank you so much for the presentation, and it's great to meet you. Thanks for all your hard work. I'm just a couple questions. When was when were all these books approved?
Oh, this was part of our last year's 2024 proclamation. So we adopted this. You remember the time when you adopted
Right.
the science books for the new TICs. That was the time when you approved the astronomy book and the Miller-Levin book.
And these are all part of biology? Is that correct?
So the Texas Experience Science by Miller-Levin.
The two biology books.
That's the one we use for freshman biology. And then there's another biology book. We use it primarily for AP biology, the Campbell Biology in Focus.
So I remember this pretty specifically last year. We approved Savas.
Yes.
And so I'm a little shocked to see these other books in here as well, because they're not Savas other than the one. So I guess that one kind of took me by surprise, because I was unaware of approving anything other than Savas.
I'm so sorry, ma'am, if you missed that. But actually, on that agenda, there were books for teaching K-12 TICs from kindergarten all the way to high school. So we had chemistry books,
right,
aquatic science books, and all
so
the
reason I'm asking is because I was following that SBOE proclamation really closely when that all took place. And we made some adjustments to our textbooks to be aligned with the SBOE proclamation from 2024. And that included the verbiage of intelligent design and removing primate evolution. And so we were able to work diligently with our curriculum team and you as well, and making the changes with the publisher so that we could be aligned with the SBOE proclamation. I do know that is it the SBOE or is it the TEACS that says we have to evaluate and analyze multiple theories? I think that's SBOE.
I don't know if you tell me the actual TICS that you're referring to.
Yeah, I think it's SBOE that states that. And so we were able to make the changes to get intelligent design, or to be aligned, and all the publishers use that language as well. So if these were adopted after the SBOE proclamation in 2024, then I wouldn't mind seeing intelligent design as an additional theory to compare and contrast to the Big Bang Theory, like we have to align with the other biology textbooks that we have. And that's one thing. And then the second thing would be regarding evolution. So help me understand this, because I am not a doctor of science of any way, shape, or form. There's a difference between primate evolution and the other evolutions that you're speaking of that's in this curriculum, correct?
No, my understanding is that a request was made to remove primate evolution from the textbooks.
Right. So the evolution that we have that you showed tonight, that's not primate evolution. That's just a different form of evolution, and that was not included in the SBOE proclamation, correct?
No, there are no different forms of evolution. Evolution is evolution, because it's organisms changing over time.
So,
yes. So there's no primate evolution. Then there is another bacteria evolution or that kind of thing. Evolution. So the premise or principles of evolution are the same.
So if we removed it in Savas when we approved the textbooks in last year for biology, aquatic science, and whatever other ones that we approved, why would we not include the same language so that our students can teach or can learn critical thinking skills to compare and contrast multiple theories like SBOE has in their proclamation from 2024?
Okay, so let me take that apart and first of all clarify that in that board item, the board was actually approving instructional resources for K-12 science. So on that, if you look at the board notes, you'll see that eDynamic, Astronomy by eDynamic was part of it. And of course, I remember that evening we spent a lot of time talking about the Miller-Levin Experience Biology by Savas. And if you look at the board minutes, there's some chapters you guys, the board actually requested us to, hide from view from the students, and we've done that. And then there was the issue of intelligent design. And let me get to you what was actually added when it comes to intelligent design. And We've also done due diligence and captured that in our curriculum document. And this is true for any biology book that that was on the SBOE instructional material list. None of those books address intelligent design in detail. And intelligent design, number one, is not in the SBOE ethics. Instead, for most of these publishers, the effort they made to mention intelligent design was this, by putting intelligent design in a call-out box. And the call-out box we have, for example, from the biology book, is some of your students may believe in intelligent design, which is a set of belief based on the idea that life is so complex that it must have been designed by a supernatural being and cannot be explained by scientific theory. When discussing the theory of evolution, it is important to focus on the scientific evidence, yet be sensitive to the different beliefs and encourage students to be respectful of their peers' viewpoints. That's the far the textbook references intelligent design. And this is true for, even if we don't want to use Texas Experience Science by Savas, and we pick McGraw-Hill or another book, that's the far they mention intelligent design. So intelligent design is not in the curriculum. And the same thing with astronomy. The astronomy also, and Dr. Harris made reference to the call-out box. There are all those call-out boxes that the publishers, in their own wisdom, use that to accommodate, the different things that they were being requested to teach. But that did not modify, change the language of the TICs, and intelligent is not one of the TICs.
Okay, so for me, there's two separate issues. One is the inclusion of intelligent design as a theory to compare and contrast to the Big Bang Theory. Because it's in some of our textbooks, I would like it to be consistent and in the other textbooks as well. And even though I'm not crazy about the wordage that's used, I do believe that we are within our place to include that. And correct me if I'm wrong. And then the evolution portion, it sounds like that's on the test, right? You're saying that there's a percentage of the evolution portion that's on the test.
It's a huge percentage in the AP exam,
Okay.
And equally huge percentage in biology exam. And just to be clear, so first of all, the TICS requires to evaluate the historical development of the Big Bang Theory, right? But if you look at any astronomy book, they do recognize that there were other theories that preceded the Big Bang Theory, right? And that's part of the historical development. In other words, in the field of science, theories die and others emerge. Now, the beauty of it is that it's not like just a theory just emerges all of a sudden. It builds on another theory, especially if there is enough evidence to back the previous theory. And so that's the historical development. That's how I read the curriculum document as a science educator. How did I get to the Big Bang Theory? So I have to look at all these theories, these are scientific theories, evaluate why they did not make the cut, and why most physicists or astrophysicists subscribe to the view that on preponderance of evidence, I think the Big Bang Theory comes close to explaining the origin of the universe. And that's how we interpret that in the classroom.
Well,
yeah.
I appreciate that. I can name you a lot of scientists that would also argue that intelligent design is a valid and truthful theory as well. So that's where I stand. I would just like to be aligned with whatever else we have with the other curriculum that we're using. Again, I don't love the language that's in there, but if it's possible to just pop that language in to the other textbooks when it comes to the Big Bang Theory, to add to compare and contrast to the multiple theories, plural. I believe it helps our students think critically. But I understand about the evolution part, I think. I mean, I I guess I don't know the difference between primate evolution and regular evolution, but if it's on the STAR test or whatever testing, I certainly don't want to impede on that. So that's what I'd like to see, and I don't know about you guys, but
Yeah, open it up. Any other questions? Anybody?
Just quickly, I would agree with Trustee Nelson on that. The proclamation does state that we compare and contrast multiple options and one with intelligent design. And so I would like to see that be consistent across. We adopted Savas and went to the efforts. Trustee Nelson worked really hard on making sure and worked with the teaching and learning department on this extensively and very quickly in trying to get that done. So I'd like to see that as well. I realize that also in that it said that we not teach or do the Darwin part, but it is an AP course and it's a theory, and
I'm okay with it in there.
And it is a course that students sign up for and knowing it's a college level course, etc. So I find it hard to argue on that. So I would also like to consider that. Is there any other?
Am I allowed to ask a question?
No,
It was just
yeah, we'll just let them.
Okay.
No, I guess the short answer is no. Ms. Horton, did you have a question?
I guess, so you guys want the other textbooks to be changed as well? Is
No,
that-
they're already changed. We've already.
Well, I know you have the
yeah.
one that was changed, but the additional resources, but it is
Right
being
now, we're just
taught in the scope
talking
and
about
sequence.
these three particular textbooks.
So which one of the three does not include the wording about intelligent design? Can you clarify that?
So intelligent design is mentioned in the astronomy book as in the same place where they mention the steady state theory, the big bounce theory. Then they mention some people may believe in creationism. That's what they use in the astronomy book. The intelligent design is mentioned in the biology textbook by Savas. And like I said, it is in a call out box. Yeah, so it's not like there's a whole chapter on intelligent design.
But it's a reference
Yes.
for the student to see. What
Yes.
about the other book? Is it included? Is reference?
Oh,
to
the other one is
intelligent design?
AP biology. That's College Board. As a matter of fact, College Board does not even recommend or require us to use a particular book. We get to choose just.
So you're saying it's
book.
not in that book?
It's not in that book.
Okay, so it's
Yes.
not. It's in 2 out of 3 of the books in question. The intelligent design is referenced in 2 out of 3.
Is intelligent design just astronomy? That's not biology, right? Does it just go in?
No, it's biology.
So
Or
the
goes
call out
biology as
box
well?
that
Origin of the universe.
Okay.
the call out box I read talking about intelligent design, that's biology, and then the astronomy book it quickly just mentions about creationism, and I was just very curious about the actual text that Trustee Nelson was referencing that talks about comparing theory. What standard is that? Is it in the
It's
biology?
You showed it up there. It was actually analyze and evaluate multiple theories, or analyze and evaluate theories. It's in the SBOE, and so it's theories plural. And that's and so I guess the question is of these 3 books, is intelligent design in there to compare, contrast, or analyze and evaluate with the Big Bang Theory?
No, ma'am. And the reason is because you go back to what I began with by trying to delineate what we consider to be a scientific theory in science. Yeah.
But
Again, multiple scientists will argue and refute that intelligent design is a valid theory.
Well, moreover, the question becomes: does the SBOE require it be included?
It's in their proclamation of 2024.
So do we not follow the proclamation?
Honestly, I would like to see what they're referencing because I'm not aware of how that fits into the the biology ticks. Because I've looked at the biology ticks, I've looked at, by the way, TEA has also given us a ticks guide. And the ticks guide actually gives us the boundary within which to teach the ticks.
So who has
and the-
jurisdiction? Who has authority over this?
Excuse me, ma'am. You mean over what?
I understand that the TEECs are separate from the SBOE's proclamation. Which one wins?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm not aware of
It's
the
changing
the proclamation that is being accurately referenced, because I've looked at all the ticks. We've written the curriculum for the entire year now for biology, and I'll tell you honestly, I haven't seen any ticks that requires us to teach that.
So the SBOE's
It's in the
proclamation.
SBOE.
Well, does the SBOE's proclamation not require this?
I haven't seen it. I'll be very happy to reference it and get to my
You're
team
not
and say,
familiar-
hey, we missed this. Why don't we need to look? Why don't we look at it?
You're not
so-
familiar with the SBOE proclamation from 2024 for science?
Sorry, ma'am.
You're not familiar with the SBOE proclamation from 2024 for science?
I am familiar.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I'm familiar. Yes.
Okay.
But if you're familiar with it, then shouldn't,
I think he said it's in the scope and sequence though, right? So
I
then
didn't hear that.
we're using one of the resources that has it, that was revised, is that
The
right?
Savas.
Yeah, the Savas,
what I'm
like to
hearing.
meet that.
Yes, we placed that call out box, and in our training of teachers, we've reiterated that you need to acknowledge that, and we put that in the curriculum document. In my meeting with the department chairs, I drew the attention to the things the board requested us to remove from the textbook and not assign to the students, so the teachers are aware that you're not going to assign this particular chapter to the students because it was actually removed by the school board. And then we draw the attention to that call-out box, and we say, you're going to lead your discussion on evolution with this statement, that acknowledging that people have different belief system when it comes to origin of life or
So
evolution.
It's being taught, it's just not in every single textbook.
So
Right.
can I,
yes,
would y'all mind if I overstep
Yeah,
my
please.
bounds here just for a second?
please.
If what I'm hearing you say is what we have in the curriculum map for regular biology, what he just shared is in our curriculum map and how we discuss it with teachers. I think what I'm hearing you say is you'd like that same thing replicated in astronomy and AP biology.
Consistent. yes.
Consistent.
When
So
you
that-
say teacher map, it's in the teacher edition, but not in the student.
No,
curriculum?
Savas was able to place it that statement in both the teacher and the student edition.
Right, we
Yes.
can't change
Yeah.
the student editions of other
Right.
books, they're done. But we can put it into our curriculum. I think that's what I'm hearing. Once
Yes.
again, I'm way
Yes.
overstepping my bounds and I
Yeah,
apologize.
that's
No,
what
but
you're
it's-
getting it.
You're
You're
getting
By
it.
the way,
Right.
the same call-out box, we've also placed it in the astronomy just to be, cognizant of the fact
So it
that...
is there already? is it?
Yes,
Okay.
we placed this same call-out box in the astronomy book.
So again,
Yeah.
2 out of 3.
So AP biology
for
is
the-
the only
for-
place where it
for-
doesn't exist?
For the AP biology,
Okay.
the teachers submit their syllabus to the college board approves, and if the college board says we're good, and like President Odenwala said, is an elective class, the kids make a conscious decision that I want to take this college level class, I'm going to engage with the material. Level biology, freshman biology is mandatory, is compulsory
So
to
when
all the
does-
students.
So when discussing the origin of the universe and Big Bang Theory, you're saying that intelligent design is in the curriculum of the other two and not the AP? You're saying that it's already in there?
So I have to qualify these very, very carefully, right? So we do not have intelligent design in the AP biology
Yeah,
course,
The other
right?
two, though.
We do not have a TICS that addresses intelligent
I
design,
understand
We
that.
right?
understand
Yeah.
that.
We have a call-out box, and we want the teachers to be conscious of the fact that students have different beliefs about origin of life.
So,
Yeah.
so it's
We
in
make
or-
that.
Yeah, the answer is yes. Yes.
So the other, to the remaining two?
Yes.
When you're discussing the origin of the universe with the Big Bang Theory, it's in that section?
Yes, the call-out box is actually
Okay.
in that section where the origin of the universe and talks about by the way, I just gave one ticks on the Big Bang Theory, but actually there are so many statements under cosmology unit.
Yeah.
And that's where, because our curriculum map is built in units,
Yeah.
right? And so at the beginning of that unit, we make that call out box to the teachers. So we do that.
Any further questions?
To the teachers? Is that what you said, to the teachers?
Oh, yeah, because the teachers are supposed to be aware of what the expectations are.
But
in
not to
curri-
the students?
The assumption is the teachers will communicate that to the students, because this is in the curriculum document.
He's saying that they tell the teachers to reference it, but it's not seen by the student, is how I understand that. You keep saying to the teachers.
It's not in the actual textbooks, that's why, so the teachers have to present it.
So we were under the impression that it was in the
Can we
Savas.
add it to the textbook?
Oh, it's already in the Savas textbook.
No.
Yeah, it's already there.
Can we add it to the other one?
No, I have no control over that. Only the publisher can do that. I cannot tell them.
I thought we could add curriculum. We can't do that?
In the publisher's textbook.
Yeah, are you talking about the hard, I'm not talking about a hard
Yeah.
copy,
Yeah.
obviously. Is there a digital version of it that we're using as well?
Yeah, for the astronomy textbook, we have the entire instructional resource is digital. And by the way, the call-out box that Dr. Harris referenced, that comes from the astronomy book.
Okay.
Yeah, so there are places where, they make those call-out boxes to acknowledge
Can we add
alternative.
Can we add it to the digital copies, to the digital versions?
I don't know whether the publisher can allow us to do that. We can be able to add it in our own instructional materials, but I don't think the publisher can, because, yeah, even though it's a dictionary resource, but we don't have editing rights to that particular instructional resource. Only the publisher can be able to do that.
Okay.
Yes.
Any more questions? All right, so this time it'd be appropriate if the board has any further discussion, or if you have a motion. So once again, just to kind of clarify back, the question, the initial question at hand, what was asking the board to make a decision regarding whether the district's dismissal of Dr. Harris's request for reconsideration because the district cannot provide his requested relief, that the district teach required TEKS but expose the error using intelligent design theory was appropriate. The board can uphold the district's dismissal, can overturn the dismissal, and send the books for reconsideration, or the board can take any action in which it believes is appropriate. I feel like I've heard a potential motion. I'd be happy to entertain a motion.
You're
If
looking at me.
well, I mean, you were on it. You were on it. So
I mean, if you guys are telling me that it's in the curriculum currently, and we are comparing and contrasting multiple theories to the origin of the universe, to the Big Bang Theory, if you're telling me that intelligent design is in 2 of the 3, and the 3rd one is the AP book, then I haven't seen the evidence of it, but I have to believe that you're being truthful. So, and if that's the case, then I move that we.
Can I just add one thing for you?
what,
Just
yes.
another consideration is that you can take no action to, which just upholds the dismissal. So those are
Okay.
really,
Okay,
changed.
then thank you.
Yeah.
Then I move that we take no action.
thank you,
And-
Ms. Glenn.
And Dr. Harris, I recommend that you continue your fight with SBOE and to work on the TEKS from that end.
Okay, so we have a motion to take no action at this time. Entertain a second.
Second.
We have a second. Any further discussion? Okay, at this time, we would vote. All those in favor of the motion that is on the table to take no action at this time, show by the uplifted hand. Thank you. It's a 7-0 vote. Dr. Harris, we appreciate you being here this evening, sir. Yes, sir.
Moving on, passing it back to